All right, we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live video stream of Numbers with Nick. My name is Nick Zupan. I'm an epidemiologist with the Rock County Public Health Department. So today, I just wanted to go over some information about the COVID-19 vaccine and how we're doing, kind of rolling that out as a county. If you do have questions for me during the live stream, you're free to put those in the chat box and we'll try to answer questions at the end of the stream. And if you have questions for us after viewing the recording of this video, feel free to reach out to us via social media. So with that, first, before we talk about the vaccine rollout in Rock County, I did want to just talk about where we're at in terms of our COVID case activity locally here. So the first screen that we're on right now, this is the Rock County Public Health Department website. You can see the URL at the top of the screen. It's co.rock.wi.us. That takes you to our county website /public health, takes us to the public health website. And you can see this image of the coronavirus right here in the middle of the screen. If we click on that, it will take us to the Public Health Department coronavirus website, where we have lots of different information for folks who are looking to get more information about the disease itself and some other resources. Today, we're going to be focusing on the data section. And if you've watched one of these videos before, you've seen me go through some of this information. I'm not going to really spend much time on these reports, but just wanted to pull up the daily status report update so you can get a sense of where we're at with respect to our COVID-19 pandemic and where we've come so far. So right now, I'm focusing on this light green box in the middle of the page. As of yesterday, there have been 16,232 Rock County residents who have tested positive for COVID-19 over the course of the pandemic. There have been 174 Rock County residents who have died due to their illness, and 15,686 individuals have recovered from their illness. So that leaves 372 estimated active cases out there in the community. So based on these numbers, we're not through the pandemic just yet. The trends are moving in the right direction in terms of getting people vaccinated and seeing fewer people come down with the virus, and also fewer people in the hospital system. So we're moving in the right direction. We're not out of the woods yet, but certainly things are looking pretty good as we're moving into the summer months here. The other piece of information that I wanted to share that's housed in this report is the number of hospitalized people on a daily basis. We try to get this information a couple times a week and report this out on this report. So this line graph here shows the number of people who are in the hospital getting treatment for COVID-19. We collect this information on a weekday basis, so you won't see numbers for the weekends, but most recently we had 13 patients in the hospital. So this was on Tuesday, or Wednesday rather, getting treatment for COVID-19. We have seen a pretty good decrease over the last couple of weeks in terms of the number of people who are severely ill with COVID-19. Overall, we're seeing those numbers decline, which is a good thing. The other kind of key piece of information that we're learning about our hospitalized cases is none of the hospitalized cases that we know of have been fully vaccinated. So they haven't completed the vaccine series if they're going for a 2-dose series, or they haven't gotten 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So we are seeing the effects of the vaccine, where we're seeing very few kind of severe cases of COVID-19 among those who have received 1 dose of the vaccine or completed the vaccine series. And just a little bit more information about kind of where we're at with respect to the course of the pandemic. This graph in the middle of the page here, this black line indicates the number of active cases that we're estimating are present in Rock County on a daily basis. And you can see these numbers have really peaked in the fall of 2020. They've come down significantly since that time period. We did see a little bit of a trend, an uptick in numbers from mid-March, but since about the beginning of the month in May, we're starting to see a decrease in our COVID active cases in the community. So all that is just good news. We're starting to see another trend downward, like we were seeing kind of in February and March, and hopefully we continue to see decreasing numbers of active cases in the community as more people get vaccinated. So with that, I'm going to close that tab and wanted to highlight another piece of information that's on our website, and this is our COVID-19 vaccine dashboard. So on May 7th, we did make some changes to the dashboard, and I believe this was covered in a previous live stream, so I'm not going to go over those changes in particular, but just wanted to give you a sense of where we're at in terms of vaccinating our eligible population and where we're at in terms of vaccine coverage whole population. So as of today, we've had 70,180 Rock County residents who've gotten that first dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. And we've had over 60,000 Rock County residents complete the vaccine series. So at this point, they're fully immunized. So when we look at the percentages of our eligible population, we're over 50% of the Rock County residents who are eligible right now have at least gotten that first dose, and we're well on our way to about 45% here in the next few days of having that many Rock County residents who are fully vaccinated, so fully protected from COVID-19. We would like to see that number continue to increase, and we're seeing some pretty good increases in terms of the number of children who are being vaccinated. Just recently, the emergency use authorization was made our 12 to 15-year-old population eligible in the US, so they are now eligible to receive the Pfizer vaccine. And we've seen a number of those 12 to 15-year-olds be receiving that vaccine. So I'm just going to switch gears here real quick. So this is the state vaccine dashboard, and they show a little bit more detailed information about specific age groups and what percent of the age groups are being vaccinated. So as I referenced, the 12 to 15-year-olds have just recently become eligible to receive the vaccine. Looks like the page is reloading on me, so we're just gonna refresh and talk about the data a little bit. But we've, as a health department and as a community, we've been working pretty hard to make the vaccine available for the 12 to 15-year-old population. So the vaccination site at Black Hawk Technical College, run by AMI, does have the Pfizer vaccine available, and they are able to vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds. We're also working in our school settings to vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds, as well as others who are eligible to receive the vaccine. So as I click on Rock County, the data for Rock County will come up, and we can see that in the course of a week or so, we have vaccinated 11.6% of our 12 to 15-year-old population with that first dose of the vaccine. Based on the timing of when they were made eligible, we're not going to see any 12 to 15-year-olds who have completed the vaccine series yet, but we should see that within a month. And I hope that we see ongoing increases in terms of our 12 to 15-year-olds who are vaccinated. When we look at when we mouse over the bar graph, we can actually see the number of individuals. So already over 1,000 12 to 15-year-olds have gotten at least one dose of the vaccine, which we're doing pretty good. We're very consistent with the state rates right now. So I think the state average is about 11.8%. So we're just 0.2% behind the state averages. So as we move forward here, we're going to continue kind of exhausting all resources to try to bring the vaccine to our communities and make getting the vaccine as accessible as possible. When we look at our 16 to 17-year-old population, we have about a quarter of that population, a little over a quarter of that population have gotten at least the first dose. And when we toggle to those who have completed the vaccine series, we have about just under 14% of our 16 and 17-year-old population who have completed the vaccine series. So again, if you're interested in getting the vaccine, you can always go to rockcountyshot.com to get information from our main vaccine providers and figure out where you're eligible. There are lots of other resources on our website, co.rock.wi.us/public health. And you can take a look at the resources we have there to get connected to a vaccine provider. And one other piece of information that I did want to share on the video today. So we have a map that's posted on our website, on the same website that I showed earlier in the video. But what we want to do is see how the vaccine has been, I guess, administered, and see how much of the population has received the vaccine depending on where they live in the county. So this map is Rock County, and the darker shades of blue indicate higher levels of people who have received the full vaccine series for the COVID-19 vaccine. So I'm gonna turn off some of these layers so it's a little bit easier to see. And we'll go through these as I'm removing them. But just wanted to give you a sense of kind of how the vaccine has been distributed in the county. So you can see these dark blue areas on the northern side of the county, and then kind of on the eastern and western edges of Janesville, as well as the northern side of Beloit and the eastern side of Beloit, have relatively higher levels of vaccination rates. And as we click on any of these individual regions, we'll get a pop-up that will show us a variety of information. One of the most important pieces of information is the percent of the population living in this area that's received the first dose, and the percent of people who have completed the vaccine series. So in this particular region on the kind of east side of Janesville, it's a larger region with fewer people, but they have achieved almost 46% of the population having received at least one dose of the vaccine, and 41% of the population having completed the vaccine series. So this extends beyond just those who are eligible. This looks at the entire population living in that area. So I invite everyone who's watching this to take a look at this website and explore the data a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in now. So I apologize for the screen changing rapidly there. But when we look at how the vaccine rollout differs, even within the city of Janesville, we start to identify areas that are in need of potentially more vaccine resources. So again, on the east side of Janesville, we see areas in this part of the city that have pretty high vaccination rates. And when we look at those rates, very similar to the region that we just focused on, but just under 50% of that population has gotten at least one dose of the vaccine, and almost 42% have gotten fully vaccinated. And by contrast, when we look at the area of the 4th Ward in Janesville, we see a much different rate of vaccination. So we see just over 21% of that population has gotten at least the first dose, and just over 15% have been fully vaccinated. The other layers that we include on this map include the number of total cases that each of these regions have seen over the course of the pandemic. And this again is standardized by the population size. So obviously in a more populated area, we would expect to see more cases. So we're trying to take that into account and display that with the red dot. So the bigger the red dot, the more cases that these particular regions have seen over the course of the pandemic. The orange dots that I just turned on are indicators of higher or lower social vulnerability. So this is kind of a way to quantify how vulnerable each of these communities are or may be in the face of a pandemic or other type of public health disaster emergency. So what we see is the larger the orange dots, the more vulnerable those neighborhoods are. And unfortunately, the 4th Ward is has a fairly high vulnerability index score, and we're also seeing lower rates of vaccination. In contrast, this area kind of down on the south side of Janesville, nearby to the old GM factory, we see higher levels of vaccine. We also see a higher burden of cases, but a lower level of social vulnerability. So just kind of interesting to see how these data points are correlated and connected in terms of our case activity and our vaccination rates. And then finally, just wanted to highlight kind of the areas specifically in Beloit. So this area is kind of on the north side of town. The Eclipse Center is located right in here. We have this side of town that's on the west side of the river, and then this region of Beloit that's on the west side of the river and just north of the Illinois border. We're seeing lower than average vaccination rates in those areas. And there are also indications that there are higher social vulnerability scores and higher than average levels of disease spread that have occurred in those areas. Now, the other piece of information that we do have on this map is our vaccine providers in the county. So the green stars that I just added to the map are those entities that do provide the vaccine. And so what we have in this particular one is Beloit Area Community Health Center. We have the address indicated when you click on the star, and we also have a link to get more information about that particular vaccination site. So with all of these green stars, these are mostly health systems or pharmacies, and you can click on these and they will provide some information and how to get connected to the vaccine at those particular locations. And then we also have what I'm calling our community vaccine clinics. So these are clinics that have been held in different neighborhoods in the community. So all of these pink dots on the map are places that either community clinics have been held or in the process or in planning process of being held in the near future. Same with those green stars. You can click on these individual icons and it will pop up with the information about that specific community clinic. So for this particular location, this is at Riverside Park, but this is for the Juneteenth celebration. There will be a vaccination clinic held at that particular location. The time of the event, so from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so as people are looking at this, they can get a sense of where vaccination clinics will be held and how to get access. You know, if you live right in this neighborhood, this would Juneteenth celebration vaccine clinic would be an ideal location to be vaccinated. So with that, I'm gonna zoom out and just again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box now. I'll check the chat to see if there have been any questions that have come through. Looks like no questions. So with that, I'm going to close out here, but I just appreciate everyone signing on and taking a look at this information and joining us today. And we'll be joining you again in a couple weeks. So take care, everyone. I'll talk to you next time.